Okay. Welcome elected members, staff, guests, members of the public to the continuation of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 16th of October 2024 that was adjourned last week. The time is 5:34 p.m. I'll move straight on to where we were at the adjournment, which is item 16.1. I'd had a mover for this in Councillor McNeish. It had been seconded by Councillor Ryan. Yeah, and for this one? Correct. Sorry, and we have what I will do is the CEO needs to have make a declaration.
I declare an impartiality interest in item 16.1, notice of motion, new CEO Performance Review Committee, as this item pertains to the performance of my role as CEO.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have any objection? I do. Councillor Craig. Therefore, Councillor McNeish, do you wish to put your motion? Speak to your motion, sorry.
Thank you, sir. It's not a hard one to understand. We all understand committees and their purpose and their use. I do feel that all elected members should perhaps feel obliged to be on the CEO Performance Review Committee because we have one employee, one very important employee, of course. When I say we, sorry, the council has, and every member of the council, I think, should form part of that one employer that liaises with the CEO about performance matters and conducts his annual review and negotiates with him, which was what the outcome was from the existing committee's process that was, well, voted down by the council, and we went into a group session with everyone involved, just effectively into a committee mode with all the elected members, that went, in my view, stunningly well. And the shared knowledge amongst elected members and between elected members and the CEO was highly valuable. Gave us confidence to then negotiate directly with the CEO in the same room, which is leading edge stuff. And I thought the best way to reinforce this and have it happen every year and perhaps quarterly, as per what we're looking at to help with the CEO's KPIs and review them as they come up, not with one big thing at the end, is to have a new committee and have that as the terms of reference to invite all elected members who want to be on. No one can be forced. All elected members to be on it should they want to be on it. Now, I understand there's a little bit of emotion tied up in the existing committee. There was an administrative sort of misreading, and that was unfortunate, but the best way to move past that sort of emotional stuff is to draw a line, thank the committee for its work, cease the committee and establish the new committee with the new terms of reference with an inclusive offering of 9 places, not a continuation of the exclusive small, tiny committee that we have. So I'd commend the inviting of everyone onto the CEO's new Performance Review Committee and would think that it would continue on the very good work that has been started with the new mechanism that was used successfully to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNeish. Councillor Ryan, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. I thank Councillor McNeish for this motion. I think it was a well thought out motion, and I think that we all learnt something from the Audit Committee, all being on the Audit Committee. Having said that, if you feel when you're invited to be on this committee that you don't want to learn from the committee, and we heard last week a couple of councillors espousing the views of training courses. This is the best training that you can get, learning from each other with a mishmash of university degrees and industry knowledge, and I think it is very important to be gaining from our elected members. I also note, Councillor McNeish, your deep commitment to the CEO's KPIs and the legal opinion which we received. And I think that this would be a valuable step moving forward. And I commend the motion to you. I think it's important to be inclusive, not exclusive. There is little extra pressure put on council staff when a committee meeting is run, that we're all involved and we can have a greater discussion on the issues at committee rather than in a full council meeting. And so I commend this motion to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against? Councillor Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be foreshadowing an alternative to this motion. I don't know whether you have it available to go on screen or not, so you're aware of what it is, and then I will speak against it.
Sure, I just want to make sure that
If not, I can read it out. I can read it out if you wish.
Sorry, can we get this up on the screen? Sorry.
The foreshadowed alternative is what's showing on the screen. The reason I'm against this is the Performance Review Committee went to training at Welga.
Point of
And
order.
Sorry, please take a seat, Councillor Craig.
Councillor Craig is not speaking for this. She's speaking against, I believe.
I don't believe she was speaking for this.
Yeah,
She's.
the alternative against it.
Can we return to the original screen? Thank
You
you.
were, okay, thank you.
Override. Right. Over, Councillor Craig, please continue.
Thank you. The reason I'm speaking against this is the CEO Performance Review Committee went to training at Welga. And at that training, one of the questions that was asked was how many members are on most committees in CEO Performance Review. And we were told that it's up to the individual councils to choose their own. We then asked, should all elected members be on the council? And he said that all elected members should participate, but it is highly recommended that not all are on the committee. And the reason being is that bias and influence can occur when you have all committee members. It would be far better to have an independent facilitator. When the committee returned and we had our committee meeting, from the public gallery, Councillor McNish asked 9 questions. So other councillors are allowed to come and ask questions if they're invited by the person chairing it. The decision was made to appoint an independent facilitator, which was brought to council and passed 7-0. A selection criteria was set up, and the weighting was with experience with local government, etc. And the person who was selected was Strategic Leadership and Dr. Shane Silcock, who was highly professionally accredited to be able to do that work. And that was voted, moved Andrew McNish, seconded Councillor Anne Ryan, and passed 8-0. We then received an email from Shane Silcock, Dr. Shane Silcock, and he set out the process of which he had already put in his application of what would happen. And every single elected member was given the opportunity then to answer the survey that he had sent out. And he did that to try and get the perception from all elected members independently and the CEO on how we thought the CEO was presenting. That was sent back, and there was a criteria that he set out. No one was noted. And because that was done independently, it made it a lot better for people to be able to answer in their own mind and in their own time without any influence of any other person. We then had another email sent out that we were going to meet with Dr. Silcock for an hour privately, and we had a criteria of what that would be, and one of that was going to be doing the KPIs. It was the committee's belief that all those KPIs had been done. There is reasons for the fact that that belief was there, because we were all told that that's what we were there for. I don't believe throwing the baby out with the bathwater just because one of the rubber duckies sunk is the right answer. I think if we waterproof it, we fix the problem, which was we didn't give enough time to the KPIs, and we address that with the whole committee, then that would be a better process. For that reason, I'd like to see, as written on the alternative, that we retain the committee that we currently have and that we remove the additional member, myself, who was elected after before the error was found.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councillor Craig. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I acknowledge the importance of conducting fair, reasonable and comprehensive CEO processes. However, the appointment of all elected members will only lead to inefficiencies and a diluted focus. Councillors, let's just keep it simple. Why are we always trying to overcomplicate everything? It is far easier for a smaller group to make decisions. Each member is able to make a more meaningful contribution in a timely manner. All elected members, as Councillor Craig just pointed out, have ample opportunity to provide feedback at any time, either to a facilitator, if they're appointed, or to the committee members. Everyone has an opportunity to be heard. With fewer members, each elected member has more time to provide meaningful input. A streamlined committee is able to be more agile, meet more frequently at short notice and provide timely feedback to the CEO, which did not occur in the most recent review, which took almost 6 months to complete. I would not agree with Councillor McNish that the most recent process went stunningly well. It was unnecessarily drawn out. I'm not exactly sure what emotion was associated with the current committee, other than a simple administrative oversight which was rectified. Just also realise, councillors, that if you support Councillor McNish's notice of motion, you are also supporting changes to the terms of reference of the committee. So just be sure that you've read what those changes are, because some of them will be impactful. So hopefully you're comfortable with that. More efficient, more effective, more decisive and ultimately more productive are all reasons I will be supporting Councillor Craig's alternative should Councillor Ryan's motion, should Councillor McNish's motion not be endorsed. To retain the current, which is to retain the current committee, and even with Councillor Craig's selfless omission, which I don't necessarily agree with, but is her right to convey. Therefore, I will not be supporting Councillor McNish's motion. I will be supporting Councillor Craig's if Councillor McNish's is not successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Speaker for? Speaker against? The only things I'll just clarify, I've listened to debate. Just looking at the terms of reference, I'm a little concerned when one councillor puts forward some terms of reference that really we haven't had the opportunity to go over, discuss collectively. 3.1 says there's no mayor. Now I recognise that he's saying that the mayor could be invited, but the mayor is probably the closest person to the CEO, who understands both his direction, the way he works, his mental health and a whole load of other issues. So I think it is remiss of us to not make sure that the mayor is on that, whoever that shall be in the future. And there's just some issues I have that there will be 9 members that the council will invite elected members to the committee. 3.3, the council will invite and appoint all the new members. 2.2, the appointment of an independent facilitator should it so desire. And we've often talked about the importance of words. I'm not quite sure where should it so desire. Is that a decision of the committee? Is that a decision of the council? And therefore, and if there's no deputies and then we only have 5 elected members, what reaches a quorum? So I'm just concerned with, as Councillor Cox pointed out, that should we go ahead with this? And I do feel that the system does work. We have taken advice from some various CEOs and trainers who believe that this is the best way forward. So thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor McNish, you have your rebuttal.
Thank you. I have 6 points. First is regarding the exclusivity. I had to front the exclusive committee to have an input and ask questions. I didn't feel all that comfortable using public question time to do that as a member of the public. And I don't think the CEO felt all that comfortable either. So
Point of order,
let's
Mr. Mayor.
Point of
avoid that.
Councillor McNeish, please take a seat.
Relevance.
Councillor Cox.
Relevance, Mr. Mayor, that's not rebuttable. Councillor McNish is introducing new material into the debate.
The word exclusive was used over here, and indeed I used it.
I think I understand where you're potentially going with this, but if you could refrain it more to the direct response rather than bringing in additional reasons. But yes, so I will carry that. But,
The Silcox exercise wasn't successful because the council determined that mechanism gave an insufficient result. That's a council decision. That's just not my opinion. That's the council talking. You know, I can't see a bias that we have when we all sit together in the chamber. As was suggested, we might have a bias when we're all sitting together in the committee. You know, I really don't see that. A committee, large or small, doesn't make decisions, it makes recommendations. A streamlined process is an exclusive process. Terms of reference changes are simply to invite all councillors to be part. And if anyone hasn't had the chance to read the terms of reference yet, I note that the Mayor spoke of specific clauses in the terms of reference. Well, you can move an amendment if you want to change any of them. Thank you.
thank you. Therefore, I will put item 16.1, notice of motion for the new CEO performance review, to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Sorry, I'm going to read the names out. So all those in favour? So that's Councillor Ryan, Councillor Lee, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Kennedy, and can't quite see your hand there, Councillor Beecroft, but I assume it's there, Councillor Beecroft. So that's four. Those against? So 5, and then we'll get 4 against, Cronin, Craig, Love and Cox. Thank you. Motion's carried. Item 16.2, notice of motion, Local Government Act. Motion's put in front of you by Councillor Anne Ryan. Councillor Anne Ryan, do you wish to move your?
The motion as put.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McNeish. Is there any objection? Councillor Cox. Councillor Ryan, would you like to speak?
Councillors, I've put forward a motion to hopefully make it clear the position of this local government to the Legislative Council when it comes to discuss Bill 181, being the amendments to the Local Government Act. The amendments proposed to the Act are an overreach and disproportionate to the circumstances, removing further the autonomy of councillors to act in the best interests of their local government district. It is difficult enough now for councillors to properly represent the ratepayers of the district. Increasingly, councillors are subject of scrutiny and oversight, not only through the complaints process, but also through draconian legislation limiting their role significantly, meaning that the role is particularly curtailed. None of us have had the opportunity to have input to respect of this particular bill, contrary to staff comments. Whereas we did a comprehensive response to Tranche 1, I have no doubt that this has been the subject of careful review by peak bodies such as WALGA. We should have been given the same courtesy for Tranche 2, that is this bill. This is regrettable considering how draconian the proposed amendments to the Local Government Act are. There are not progressive changes and do nothing to make the Act clearer. They are indeed regressive. In my view, it is time for councils, all councils, to make clear that they do have a relevant role to play as the third arm of government, and that they ought to be trusted and respected in respect of the role they play, rather than their role being continuously diminished and toyed with, so that they do not have the tools to be able to properly represent ratepayers as a whole. I have seen over recent years the diminution of powers of local councils to act in the best interest of their ratepayers, and I consider this to be a retrograde step. I also consider that if councils do not make their voice clear, they will simply allow their powers to be further curtailed and diminished, so that ratepayers do not have their views represented through their councillors. Councillors, last week the Mayor handed out this document, and one of the things I see on here is the community views. What do the community think? Were they provided with adequate information when providing feedback? The answer is no. The community know nothing about these changes. One of the changes being touted is the ability of the inspector and the department to have the power to apply for search warrants to search your home or anyone associated with you without any oversight body. This is a complete overreach, but this is just one of the things. There are many more alarming changes, and you watch the dollar impost on ratepayers because it will be significant, and they know nothing about this bill. A bill of this nature ought to be resisted, and I request the support of councillors to resist, to call upon the Legislative Council to resist the bill. Interestingly, in my final comment, Walga would have been aware, but like the election issue of last week, nothing has been forthcoming to this council on the bill, and this bill does give Walga, an unelected body, more power. Thank you.
Just a question of clarification. The city submitted a response in December 21. Councillor Ryan said that tranche 2 wasn't included. Is that correct?
Elements of what was in tranche 2 were included in previous consultations from the department, yes.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, sorry.
Thank you, sir. I too believe there are some regressive changes being proposed and the need to send the signal about the continuing erosions. You know, I feel a certain lack of respect from the state government, being part of local government, as it continues its march to the impositions with a illogical basis, dubious reasons. And I was not here as an elected member in December 21, so 3 years ago, so I haven't had a chance to have my say and have my input, and I'd very much like to do so and see that come around again for some consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNeish. Speaker against? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I do not support Councillor Ryan's motion to request the government to undertake further consultation on tranche 2 of the local government reforms. I am, in fact, quite supportive of the tranche 2 reforms. I am also satisfied that officers have confirmed that comprehensive consultation was undertaken with regard to both tranche 1 and 2 of the reforms over a considerable period of time. I don't think you can keep going back and back and back to consultation just because some councillors weren't on council at the time that the consultation was undertaken, as Councillor McNeish just lamented that he was not personally consulted. Tranche 2 will in fact be extremely beneficial, particularly to dysfunctional councils. The reforms are designed to facilitate faster resolution of potential problems before they escalate, provide assistance to support local governments to resolve issues without the need for more significant intervention, ensure better decision-making and improve public confidence. Very dramatic words used by Councillor Ryan: scrutiny, oversight, overreach, draconian, regressive. I think it's overly dramatic. Ratepayers deserve to be represented by well-functioning councils. And I believe that these reforms will go some way to achieving that. If your councillors are not doing the wrong thing, then there won't be any impost on the ratepayers. So I say, bring it on. I support implementation over further consultation, and so therefore will not be supporting Councillor Ryan's notice of motion, and I would urge all councillors to vote against this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Speaker for? Speaker against? Councillor Love?
I'll just be very quick about this one, just because Councillor Cox covered most of the points that I would have brought up. From my reading of the reforms on the DPLH full reform proposals website, and having listened to the Honourable Minister Hannah Beasley speak at Welga about these reforms, my understanding is that the inspector will be put in place as an oversight cautionary kind of guide, so that council can be a bit more proactive in dealing with council complaints. And we're going to have, sorry, I'm just trying to find the thing. We're going to have monitors that are, a panel of local government monitors would be established, and that's through the, why am I going blank? That would be through the minister. And so these monitors, they're not going to be people that are inexperienced. They're going to be ex-CEOs, ex-mayors, ex-presidents. And then what the ideal of this proposal in that regard would be to try and help councils not going into administration default, as we'd seen just recently with the Donnybrook bailing up incident, where the Director General had to appoint a commissioner after the resignation of 5 councillors. And I do concur with Councillor Cox that if we are all abiding by the council legislations and the Local Government Act, more than likely when you'd find that if your council's doing the right thing, you're not going to have somebody, an inspector, that's the word I was trying to think of before, sorry, I forget about that. We're not going to have a huge invasive control just come and take over the council. It's purely put in place so that councils that get red flagged can have some oversight from the inspector, from these panel of monitors, to help hopefully be proactive, so that we don't have to go into administrational control, because that costs the ratepayers a hell of a lot of money when we fall into disrepair like the Shire of Donnybrook had done, I think it was only 2 years ago. And yeah, I believe if you're not reforming, you're going backwards.
Thank you, Councillor Love. Speaker for? Speaker against? I'll just rise just to add a couple of points that I went through the submissions and note that there are community groups, business submissions. There were over 90 submissions from government departments, of which probably about 85 were from councils. So I just believe that, 85 of the major councils have responded, and my understanding is that maybe those smaller councils have left WALGA to respond, of which I think 138 councils are members of WALGA. So if that's correct, thank you.
Can I ask a question, please?
You may ask a question.
Was that of the recommendations, or was that of this tranche number 2?
That was of the recommendations for the whole, as explained by
Okay,
Council.
that's a completely different kettle of fish to this bill.
Director Pearson confirmed with me that that was the consultation and it included this tranche. Thank you. Speaker for? Speaker against? Your rebuttal, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. Ms Pearson talked of elements in the last tranche. Elements. Why were some adopted and some not in the first tranche? Why have we now got some of the reforms that were recommended by that particular committee. Sorry, it was a working group. And some of the reforms haven't been, and some of the things that are in this bill weren't even talked about in that report. Are you sure, Councillor Cox, that the community knows? Are you sure? Because what's going to happen when these inspectors and issues come in, that these councils are going to pay for those inspectors. So it's going to cost an inordinate amount of money to have this new regime. And being mindful that the Libs didn't vote for this bill, and I believe they won't be voting for it in the upper house as well.
Please refrain to your rebuttal. Councillor
Yes, there are some good reforms in this, but there are also some bad reforms. And once again, I'll say, you don't know what you don't know. And it is giving more power to the administration and less power to the elected members. And therefore, it is taking away the ability of councillors to represent the community. Councillors, I would urge you to vote for this motion and basically send a message to the government that this is not a good bill, and to oppose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Therefore, I put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Ryan, Councillor Lee, Councillor McNeish, Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Beecroft. Those against? Councillor Love, Cox, Cronin and Craig. Thank you. Move on to item 13.3. Notice of motion budget amendment. Councillor Manish, do you wish to put your motion?
As written, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Oh, okay. Councillor Lee will second it. Is there any objection? Being no objection, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried 9-0. Thank you. That was all councillors. I will now, as we move into confidential items, request that a councillor move a motion that we go behind closed doors. Moved, Okay, moved Councillor Lee, seconded Councillor Craig. Is there any objection? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour? The motion's carried 9-0. I would now ask that the gallery, that the members of the public and those not involved in this items, please leave the gallery. And thank you for your attendance. Okay, item 11.1, the consent to advertise local planning scheme. The alternative recommendation in front of you was 154, passed. Was that 8.1? Sorry. 8.1, and the other item, 18.1. Item 18.5 was lost at 4.5. That being no further business, close the meeting at 6:40 p.m. The next council meeting will be December 13th.
I now invite you all